Good morning. I chose to do my report on the book of Joshua. I chose to do my report on the book of Joshua because I thought it would be interesting to get the Bible's perspective on a topic such as war, especially when it was God that was ordering this war to happen. I thought it would be interesting to see what the Bible said about that and how God justified doing such things. And I found out that through these wars, God was punishing evildoers and clearing the earth of sinful people, and it was a way of cleansing. Secondly, I wanted to remind myself that the Israelites, listened and obeyed every command of God, and He fulfilled their promises. And the expectations and the commands of God were far beyond anything that we are asked to do in our society today as Christians. And I want to remind myself that if those people were able to obey God's commands that were so extreme, that I should be able to obey God's commands that He gives me in this day and age in this society as a Christian. Firstly, in the book of Joshua, we must first kind of remember the book of Abraham, and Abraham being the first leader of the people of Israel, and the people of Israel being imprisoned in Egypt. And after Abraham, we must remember Moses, and Moses going to Mount Sinai and receiving the promise from God and getting the Ark of the Covenant. And after Moses gets this Ark of the Covenant and this promise from God, he leads the people to camp right outside the Jordan River, and that's kind of when the book of Moses ends. And Moses dies, and then after Moses, we have Joshua. And the book of Joshua picks up right when Moses has died, and Joshua is appointed the new leader of the people of Israel. And the author of the book of Joshua tells us that Joshua is essentially a new Moses. Once Joshua is appointed leader of the Israelites, his first actions were he speaks to the people and reminds them they must follow the commandments on the covenant just as Moses told them. And second, one of the first things Joshua does is he sends spies into the promised land. And when Joshua does this, it goes much better than when Moses did it. He gets some Canaanites to join the Israelites in their battle. In Joshua chapter 3 and Joshua chapter 4, we read about Joshua leading his people to the Jordan River, and we see the Jordan River part just as the sea did for Moses in Exodus. And the priests, they carry the Ark of the Covenant across into the Promised Land. And once the people are across the Jordan River in the Promised Land, they sort of have a celebration. They circumcise just as they did in the past, and they celebrate their first Passover in the Promised Land. In Joshua chapter 5, we read about how he encounters an angel of God, and Joshua asks him, whose side is he on, the Canaanites or the Israelites? And the angel tells him he's on neither side. This is God's war. And in chapter 6, we learn about the people of Israel walking in circles around the walls of Jericho in hopes that maybe some of the people will come out and join them. None of the people join them. And on the seventh day, the priests blow the horns and they knock the walls over. And this leads Israel to victory. The common theme of this book and the specific story that God, in this specific story, is that God will deliver and provide for His people. We just have to trust and follow His commands. In the final chapters of Joshua chapter 13 through 22, we read stories of Joshua aging and becoming an older man, and he also is dividing up the land of all the battles that he had won throughout throughout Joshua, we read about countless battles that God leads them to victory in. And this is very important towards the end of Joshua, because this is a fulfillment of God's promise that he made to Abraham and he made to Moses. And now the Israelites have a great nation and they have land. And as the book of Joshua is ending, he tells his people how important it is to obey God's command and obey the commandments of the covenant, because if they do not, they'll experience the same fate as the Canaanites. Throughout the book of Joshua, we learn that today in our society that God does not have these commands for us. He doesn't ask us to go into life or death situations all the time. And we must remember that to follow God and to walk closely with him, we must follow his commands that he gives us in this society, in this day and age. And if we can do that, he will be happy and pleased. And if the people in the Bible were able to follow his commands when his commands were oftentimes life or death situations, then we should be able to do what he asks of us in our society today. Thank you.